Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at my bronzer collection, both creams and powders. So let's go ahead and get into it because there's a lot of them. Okay y'all, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with creams and then we'll move on to powders. So sitting right here at the front, an old classic, the Milk Makeup Bronzer Stick. I'm so conflicted about this because it kind of smells funky these days. It still performs really well, but I've had this for so long. I just don't know if I'm willing to get rid of it yet. I still like it, so I'm gonna hang on to it for as long as it performs well. It doesn't smell like off necessarily, just kind of strange. I don't need judgment. I'm keeping it. This one is the Soul Body Face and Body Bronzing Cream or Balm or whatever they're calling it. I have mine in the shade Light. This is a really nice one. I had it in Fair and it was just much too yellow. This is a much better shade for me, and I've also heard that this shade and formula is pretty close to the Soleil Tan de Chanel, the cream bronzer from Chanel that's just like insanely expensive. And also they've reformulated the Chanel one and I've heard it's not as good anymore. So this one's available from ColourPop for like $15 if you buy it full price, but never buy anything from ColourPop full price. This is a really good one. I really enjoy it. Smells kind of strongly of like, I want to say coconut, but not really. It's just kind of a beachy scent. So if you're not into that, maybe steer clear, but otherwise really good. Speaking of ColourPop, I have the Super Shock bronzer in the shade Get Sandy. I really like this. Obviously, I love the Super Shock formula in all things. You can see I've put a decent sized dent in this. My one problem with it is that it's just a little bit lighter of a shade than I might have liked, and I feel like I have to really dig into it a bunch of times to get any color on my cheeks. So I feel like I'm going through this pretty fast, so if I were to buy another one, I'd probably just get the next shade up, but I do really enjoy this. This is a more recent find that is absolutely incredible. It's the Makeup Revolution Cream Bronzer. It is absolute perfection. It is not too warm, but not cool, like a contour color. The formula is absolutely beautiful, very emollient, like melts when you touch it. You can just see that perfect neutral shade. I love this stuff, and it costs $8. Mine's in the shade Light, by the way. They don't have that many shades of it, but it's a decent range, I think. There's, I think, 4 or 5 shades, and they vary in depth pretty well. So, love this. Highly recommend. Next, I have this little mini from Nude Sticks. It came in one of the little trios of minis they've been putting out lately. This is the Nudies All Over Face color in the shade Bondi Bay. It's very cute. It's just a tiny little stick, but I mean, I don't go through these worth a damn anyway. I like the shade. It's maybe a little warmer than I would prefer, but it's a really nice formula. It blends really easy, and I enjoy it. So, do I recommend you go out and spend full price on one of these? Not necessarily. I don't think it's really any better than a cream stick you can get from pretty much anywhere else, but it's nice, it's cute, so I'm glad I have it. Next, we have one of my favorites. This is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Shaping Stick in the shade Light. Love the shade, love this formula. It is so good. It practically blends itself. As you can see, it's been pretty well loved. It is just absolutely gorgeous. The shade is... it's perfection. It's just a little bit peachy. It's not too warm, not too orange, which is very important. They call it a sculpting stick. This one is definitely more of a bronzer color. I believe the shade Light Medium is a little bit cooler tone, so if you're actually looking for that like contour stick color, that would be a good one to go with. But I love this shade for bronzing. Absolutely beautiful, looks so natural. Cannot say enough good things about this one. Next up, I'll kind of address this weird thing here. This is actually the Makeup Revolution Eye Bright Concealer, but this is in the shade Deep Caramel. People were saying you could use this as like an alternative to the Charlotte Tilbury contour wand, and I mean, it's okay. I'm probably actually going to get rid of this because when I contour, I use absolutely not this. This shade is a little deeper than I wanted it to be. And also, I find that when I apply this to my face, it dries down just a little too fast for me to blend it well. So, because of all that, I just don't find myself reaching for it. So this one can go ahead and go. Cream contour stick that I do reach for is this Uoma Beauty Double Take contour stick. This is in the shade White Pearl. I love this. There's also a highlighter stick, but we're just here to talk about the contour. The shade is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's the contour shade. Look at that. Oh my god. It's perfect. And it's so, so creamy. I mean, this stuff is like, do you see that? I mean, it's just, I'm barely touching my finger to it. It blends so easy. I found this at TJ Maxx. If you get your hands on this, highly recommend. It is so nice. The highlighter is nice, but I think the contour is really the standout product. This one is also just amazing. This is the M Cosmetics So Soft Bronzer Stick. This one's in the shade Summer. And I love this one too, just because it's that perfect neutral shade. Not too warm, not too cool. It's just absolutely perfect as a bronzer for me. Love the color, but even more than I love the color, I love the formula. This stuff, I mean, I'm really barely touching it. Barely laying my finger on top of it. And look how easily that blends out. It is perfection. The blush sticks are amazing too, but if I could only pick one, I'd pick the bronzer every day. This is absolutely amazing. M Cosmetics can be a little bit pricey, and, you know, they don't really run sales very often, but my goodness, pretty much everything I've tried from them has been worth it 100%. This is another one that I really like. This is the Persona Bronze Multi-Stick. Mine is in the shade Dune. I got this from a BoxyCharm sale, and I do really enjoy this. It has a very creamy texture, which makes it super soft and hydrating on the skin a little bit. It blends very easily, and it leaves sort of a slightly dewy shine because of that emollient texture. It's a little bit warmer, more yellowy orange than I tend to like in a bronzer, but it's pretty easy to blend out to a place where it doesn't look quite so stark. So this is definitely a good one. That being said, if you kind of have pinkier undertones, maybe not this shade. This is the Huda Beauty Tantour. Mine's in the shade Fair. This stuff is really nice. However, you have to be so careful about how much of this you use. It is mega pigmented. As you can see, it's that nice neutral shade. Like I was saying, I enjoy in my bronzer products. I don't really use this as a contour ever, but it is so pigmented. I mean, you a little bit goes such a long way with this stuff. I tend to use this for more like heavy duty, like full glam events. But once it dries down, it does not go anywhere, and it blends like a dream. So, you know, if you're looking for that intense, like, bronzer combo with contouring capability and, you know, just to really pack a punch, this is an excellent one for that. Really enjoy this. On the more subtle side of things, this is the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer. I have mine in the shade Tan Lines. This is a really nice formula. I don't feel like it's all that much like the putty blushes. The putty blushes, I feel like, have a almost more of a matter, powderier finish to them. This is very emollient. That being said, I like the formulas of both. This definitely has more of that cream to powder feel once you start applying it, but with the blushes, you can really feel it even in the little pot. I mean, it blends so easily. This is a much more subtle option. Definitely, you know, more of an everyday kind of look, at least for my skin tone. But I really enjoy the formula. I feel like it lasts a really long time. I feel like it sets and doesn't move. And for the price, you absolutely can't go wrong. This is the Wet n Wild Contour Stick in the shade Where's Walnut. Looks very dark. It is kind of dark, but I found and I heard in reviews that the other shades of this stick tend to run quite orange. And it looks very intimidating on first swatch, but you can really blend this out to be a decent bronzer shade for a lighter skin tone. See? I mean, gosh, look at that. I practically blended it away. I mean, you can definitely still see it. It's definitely there. It's just much more subtle than it looks like it's gonna be. It's a great formula. As you can see, it blends very, very easily. And for the price, again, you can't beat it. Down to two of my absolute favorites. We'll start with this one. This is the Rare Beauty Bronzing Stick. Mine is in the shade Happy Soul. Once again, I picked this shade because it is a little more neutral leaning than some of the other shades, particularly the shade lighter than this. It just looked very, very orangey yellow. This one, though, is just absolutely perfect. It's bronzing, but it's not orange. It's a beautiful neutral tone. The formula, again, it reminds me a lot in terms of texture of the M Cosmetics stick in the way that you barely have to touch it. It almost converts to sort of a powdery feel, and it just blends out so perfectly. I mean, you know, I hate to throw around terms like blends itself, but I would say it applies very accurately to this one, the Makeup by Mario, and the M Cosmetics. So I can't recommend any of them enough. They are so, so good, so beautiful. There's no downsides to this. So last one for creams, and then also sort of getting us into the powder category. This is the Patrick Ta, the Cream Contour and Powder Bronzer Duo. And this is in the shade She Statuesque, which is the lightest shade. It is absolutely lovely. There's a little plastic thing over the contour like you can see. So the contour is a cream and the bronzer is a powder. The cream is perfect. It's emollient. It's an amazing shade for someone with my skin tone. It adds just enough of that hint of a cool tone. It looks incredible. And then while we're here, we'll go ahead and transition into the powder bronzers. This bronzer is also absolutely lovely. I love the formula. The shade is okay. It's a little yellowier than I might like. You can't really see it super well just because it is for such fair skin. It builds quite well. Like I said, just a touch yellower than I tend to go for in a bronzer, but I really can't complain. The formula is lovely. It has just a hint of a satin sheen that just comes across so well on the cheeks, and I absolutely love this. The standout product, though, is the contour cream for sure. And with that, we'll go ahead and get into the powder bronzers. So this is my arguably excessive powder bronzer collection. We'll go ahead and get right into it. I'll start with this organizer, and then we'll move on to this one. So we'll start right here on the top. Look at this. How bougie is that? It comes in a little velvet pouch. Naturally, mine is covered in cat hair. I don't even know how that happened. This is the Kevyn Aucoin, the Sculpting Powder. Mine is in the shade Light. Found this at TJ Maxx years and years ago. It is so nice. It's so good. Like, look, I can't tell you I would have ever spent full price on this, but my goodness, is it a nice contour. I don't even think I have any other contour powders. I think this is my only one. Look, I mean, you can't even really see the color, but you can see that there's a shadow there now. I mean, it's so soft. I can't even describe how soft it is. It's a little powdery in texture, but wow, is it effective. Like, if I pop a little bit of this on my cheeks, I look snatched. It's so, so good. I don't even know if they sell this anymore. Is Kevyn Aucoin still around? Someone tell me if Kevyn Aucoin is still around. I don't know if you can find this at TJ Maxx, but if you do, I think I got this for $15. It's a steal. Another thing I got at TJ Maxx for a steal, this teeny tiny little Bare Minerals loose bronzer. This is the shade Faux Tan. It is gorgeous. It has such a subtle sheen to it on the cheeks. I'm going to try not to spill it everywhere. I'm actually going to pick some up off the cap because such a little of this stuff goes a very, very long way. I actually have to be careful when I apply this on my cheeks not to overdo it. Well, of course, now you can't really see it. So we're gonna commit. I mean, it can be tough to blend with a finger. With a brush, it's a little easier. But do you see that sheen? It is lovely. I really, really like this stuff. This is more of a full glam look kind of bronzer for me, just because it is so pigmented and it can get a little intense pretty quickly. But if you've got the right brush and you go in layers, it is so good. So this is something I can kind of contend with right away. I have this Milani Silky Matte Bronzer, but I have it in 2 shades. This is the shade 01. This is the shade 02. I'm only going to keep one of these shades. This one is sort of lighter and a little bit warmer. It's definitely not orange or yellow or anything, but it's a little bit warmer. This is the one I'm going to go ahead and keep. This is shade 2 Sunkissed. As you can see, it's got a little bit of that cooler, more neutral tone, which I've been saying how much I love. It almost passes for a contour. It's really, really lovely. So this is definitely the shade that I prefer. The formula's great. I have no bad things to say about it, especially as far as drugstore matte bronzers. You really can't go wrong. I'm just going to get rid of one of them because I have 2 shades, and there's just no reason for me to have 2 shades of this. This is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer in the shade Sunset Striptease. I feel like this is such a classic, and honestly, there's a reason for that. This shade is so lovely. And the formula, I don't know if you can tell, but it has this sort of golden pearl running through it. It's not super obvious on the cheeks, though. It doesn't, like, glaringly, like, that's a very heavy swatch, so you can really see the pearl. But when you blend it out on your cheeks, it's just so much more of this, like, subtle satinness, much more like that. It is so lovely. This stuff is so good. Seriously, there's a reason people have talked about this as, like, one of the best drugstore bronzers. I love this. Speaking of the best drugstore bronzers, I would be remiss not to include the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. Smells delightfully coconutty. I mean, this is a classic for a reason. It really is as smooth as butter. It is just a lovely shade if you're very pale like myself. It blends like nothing. It has this hint of a natural sheen. There's no actual pearl running through it, but it's just a hint of a satin. I mean, this is the classic bronzer. It's the bronzer, you know? If you hate the smell of coconut, steer very, very clear, but it's so good. This I actually got in a BoxyCharm sale, and it's still the only product I've tried from LYS, but this is their powder bronzer, and it's nice. I really enjoy this. I'm not gonna say I'm, like, blown away by any stretch. I mean, is it the best bronzer I've ever tried in my whole life? No. But it's nice. I enjoy this. I'm glad I have it. But I'm also glad I only spent $9 on it, if that makes sense. I do want to try other things from the LYS line, and I'm not disappointed in this bronzer by any means. It's just not, like, a life-changing bronzer, you know? So, do I like it? Yes. Do I recommend it? Yes. But if you're gonna spend, what is it, 19, 20 bucks on a bronzer, you could probably do better. That's all. This is the Alamar Cosmetics Hydrating Complexion Trio. I don't know that I would call it hydrating, but it has a face powder and then 2 bronzers, or maybe this is supposed to be a highlighting powder. I don't really know. I'm probably gonna get rid of this. I literally never think about the fact that I have this. It's fine. Like, I like the formulas. They're very soft, very blendable, creamy. I like the shades. They're fine. It's just that I literally just don't even think about the fact that this is in my drawer. So it's okay. But she can go. This is the Flower Beauty Heat Wave Bronzer. I am sad because my packaging broke. This stuff's lovely. I have mine in the shade Sunrise L1, and it's a baked bronzer formula, so it really is so smooth and just like, oh, I want you to be able to feel how smooth this is through the screen. I really like the shade too, because again, say it with me, it's a much more neutral shade. It almost has like a rosy tone. You could almost wear this as a blush, I feel like. And, I mean, look at that sheen, because it's so baked. Ugh, this stuff is so good. I'm so sad it's broken. But it doesn't stop me from using it. Love this. An old classic, the Benefit Hoola bronzer. This is a little mini one I've had for ages, and she's going strong. I mean, it's a classic for a reason. Hoola is just good. It's just a good bronzer. It's a reliable matte powder bronzer. In the age of, makeup market saturation that we're in now, would I say that you should buy Hoola over any other bronzer? Absolutely not, by any stretch of the imagination. But it's nice. It's a reliable bronzer. It looks good, blends well, and I'm gonna hang on to it. But don't go out and spend $30 on this, please. You can do the same thing at the drugstore. Another old classic, the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil bronzer. If I can get it open. This packaging really is not it, though. I mean, it's so beautiful, though, isn't it? As you can see, mine's been well loved. You can hardly see the name on it anymore. Still smells like chocolate. Absolutely divine. It's just a nice, again, little bit more neutral bronzing shade. You cannot even see that. It's good for pale people is the point. It's a little neutral. It's good for pale people. It's bordering on contour colored, and I really like that about it. So, I mean, the fact that it still smells like chocolate as much as the day I got it says to me that she's going strong. So, this is such a slept-on one. This is the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Bronzette. As you can see, the pan is absolutely massive. It is, say it with me, bordering on contour colored, just that perfect neutral tone, and the sheen, oh my word. First of all, that blend, and look at that little bit of a sheen. So pretty. I mean, you can even kind of see it in the pan, really. The fact that there's just this, this hint of a sheen to it. Can you see that, goldenness? Yes. Oh, so pretty. It's so pretty. Love this. I don't even know if you can find this anymore, but if you can, you must. It is so good. And finally, for this one, we have the classic Marc Jacobs. Mine is not the coconut one. It is the Tantric shade of the Omega Bronze. And it is beautiful. It's actually a little bit more rosy toned than the coconut one in Tantastic, which again, I actually really like. I got this at TJ Maxx. I forget for how much. I want to say $15 or $20 back when Marc Jacobs was sort of closing down. It is so nice. As you can see, like I said, a little bit more of that rosy tone. You can hardly see it on a swatch. It's more of a buildable formula. It's definitely drier to swatch. There, you can kind of see it a little bit better. It's lovely though. It's just a really, really nice formula. Was it ever worth the full price? No. Of course it wasn't. But I like it. So I'm keeping it. All right, just a few left. This is my little teeny tiny mini of NARS Laguna. I love this stuff, actually. It's really, really beautiful. It's a little deep, so I kind of have to go in with a light hand. But again, one thing I just love about it is that golden sheen that kind of runs through it. That's part of what Laguna is famous for, is that golden kind of sheen. But wow, it's so beautiful on the skin. Highly recommend. I recommend a little mini like this, honestly, just because it's very pigmented and a little bit goes a very long way. So especially if you're fair like me, you don't need a huge pan of this if you have other bronzers. But honestly, I couldn't fault you for buying a full pan of this. It's really beautiful. This is the Nabla Skin Bronzing. Mine is in the shade Ombra. A absolutely lovely bronzer from Ulta, from an indie brand that has really popped off in the last couple years. It's more of this gelée kind of formula. So again, has that beautiful sheen. I love everything from their cheek product line. The bronzer is beautiful. The blush is beautiful. Highlighter, beautiful. Nabla does most things right. And I think you can get these for $18 when they go on sale for 21 Days of Beauty. So, I mean, you really can't go wrong. These are fantastic. Next, I have the sleeper hit of 2022, L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Bronzer. This stuff broke the internet, and I get the hype. I want to say that this pretty much immediately put itself in my top 3 powder bronzers. This is absolutely amazing. It is so soft. It is so creamy. It's a perfect shade. It's blendable. It's just yummy. I have mine in the shade 250 Light. I did not buy the palest shade because it looked just a little bit too fair, and you can't even really see this one very well, but it's, oh my god, the color is perfect, the formula is perfect. Run, do not walk. Don't spend $20 on it because you can get it at a bunch of places for way cheaper, but this is so good. Seriously, the hype is so real around this one. One I'm gonna kind of gloss over because you can't get it anymore. Becca Bali Sands, a classic, beauty community classic. Found it at TJ Maxx back when Becca was shutting down. Had to get my hands on it. I do like it. It's a perfect color for me, but like I said, glossing over. A drugstore hit that people sleep on. Revlon Skin Lights Bronzer. Mine is in the shade Sunlit Glow. People talk about the highlighter a lot, which is also beautiful, but this is so, so good. You already know what I'm going to say just by looking at it. Look at that sheen. It is gorgeous. Look at this color. It is perfect, not too warm. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but I know what I love in a bronzer, and I keep coming back for more of them because they're so good. This is also one I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about it. This is from Beauty Bay. This is their just powder bronzer in the shade Donut. Kind of one I heard about on the internet and just kind of wanted to give it a try. And I like this one, actually. I mean, look, the packaging is insanely cheap. You're not getting, high-end luxe packaging out of this one. But, again, look at that golden sheen. Look at the shade. It's nice. It does a good job. And it's a little bit deeper than a lot of my bronzers, which again is good for more like glam occasions, and also if I'm wearing a foundation shade that runs just a hair too dark. I really like this stuff. Again, feels extremely cheap. I'm pretty sure these cost $8. You could have convinced me it was $3. But the formula holds up. I gotta give them that. Another sleeper hit that I'm pretty sure you can't get anymore, this is the Catrice Sungasm Luminizing Bronzer. I pretty much picked this up when I saw it at TJ Maxx purely because of my undying love for the Sungasm highlighter. And it holds up. It's a beautiful bronzer. As you can see, it kind of has that rosy tone to it, a hint of a shine, and it's quite pigmented. So I do have to kind of use a light hand, but it's beautiful. Blends beautifully. Catrice really, really does it. They do. They really come through. It's excellent makeup. This is so good. I'm sorry if you can't get this anymore. I hope you can. Highly recommend. This one is actually not marketed as a bronzer. It is marketed as like a face powder, but I got mine in the deeper shade, which is Dusk Reflection. This is the Honest Beauty Luminizing Glow Powder, and it works amazing as a satiny, sheeny bronzer. I don't remember who I saw do this. It might have been Allie Glines. But it's lovely. Look at that shade. Again, just that perfect sort of rosy toned neutral brown. I know I'm a broken record here, but recommend this very, very highly. This is the bronzer I'm currently trying to pan. This is the Maybelline City Bronzer, if I can ever get it out. The Maybelline City Bronzer, it's quite a pale shade. I have mine in the shade 100, which is very, very light. I'm not even going to swatch it because it won't show up on my hand. That being said, if I put this on my face, it shows up just enough for sort of an everyday occasion. And that's why I'm panning it, because I use a fair bit of it every time I use it, and it's definitely an everyday kind of color. So I like this. I don't even know if they sell it anymore. It's fine. You know, it's not amazing, but it's fine, and I'm going to use as much of it as I can. This is the e.l.f. Primer Infused Bronzer. This is the shade Forever Sun-Kissed. I'm not going to swatch this because it gets really, really bad hard pan if you touch it. But the formula is beautiful, very long lasting, very, very smooth. The hype was real around this one. So, you know, if you see it, you won't be disappointed. And last but not least, a real sleeper hit from the drugstore. This is the number 7 bronzer. This is the shade Golden Sand. And I'll be damned if it's not absolutely beautiful. Again, it's just a really great shade, almost a little bit rosy toned. Not much sheen to it. I would say this is much more of a matte bronzer, but it is so blendable. It looks so natural on the skin. This surprises me every time I pull it out and use it. And I'm not sure why, because number 7 makes incredible products, but this is so good. If you see this, I recommend this so highly because it is fantastic and no one talks about this. So now you know, number 7 bronzer, so beautiful. And I think it's like $15, which, you know, drugstore pricey, yeah, but I think it's worth it.
Okay, y'all, so that's it. That's my entire bronzer collection. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, I hope you will leave a like and subscribe down below. I will see you in the next one. Bye.